I think that local people, local doctors and lawyers and businessmen in little towns in South Carolina should have a little bit more say-so about what type of economic and sociological ideas that are being taught to their children. I think that they have a right to continue the same type culture that they believe in and they love so much. And of course, this is, I know, completely frowned upon by other people in other sections, and people even here in this state, some feel differently. But I think that people have a right to have their children educated in a way that they know is best for them, and in a way that will not destroy the culture as they know it.
I look at it a little bit differently from my husband as a teacher. I mean, from a different viewpoint. We come out the same way. But as a teacher and as a future mother, from the teacher's viewpoint, I see local control of the schools being taken away. I've seen this in the classroom, and I look at it from a personal viewpoint, more personal, of course, than my husband. And as a potential mother, I'd like to see this country return to law and order so I can be sure that my children are safe to walk the streets, and that my children can go to the schools and have the kind of teachers that I think they should, that I want them to, rather than the kind of teachers, the kind of schools that somebody up in Washington says they should go to. And I think Governor Wallace can give us this kind of government more than anyone else can.
I just don't like the way things are going in the country today. You take, I'd say about 6 years ago, me and Mr. Murphy were sitting around talking about how bad things were going. At that time, I didn't even belong to the only thing I belonged to was a union at that time. I didn't belong to any clubs or anything. I just didn't feel like a mingler, you know. I didn't want to associate too much with anybody. I didn't want to get too involved in anything. And we happened to be sitting around talking about the different situations that are happening in the country today, and we sort of felt that we had to find some way of getting out there and finding out really what was wrong so that we could bring it to other people what was wrong.
What do you think is the biggest attraction that Wallace has?
Common sense and easy to understand language. He can talk to the American public without making a complicated situation out of anything. And this is what appeals to me about the man, and he seems to have the answers to most of these problems. Whether he can effectually put it into effect will be something else.
What I've explained is not explained and is not repeated, and the people are not informed on what they've lost in the way of the right of self-government. They can feel it. They can feel it. They know there's something wrong. They know that Washington is taken over. In practically every detail, and Washington can interfere. While people bent on violating the laws and destroying state and local governments get away with impunity because the only ambition of the chief executive in his political organization called the national government is for votes for re-election. And they place more importance on the blood vote than on government, than on peace and good order, than on law enforcement and observance and respect for the laws. Johnson is just a political pervert, and he has perverted our government to outlawry. And he's brought about the destruction of our cities by the very people that he's encouraged. You remember the spectacle when he appeared before a joint session of Congress, where the accompanying disgrace of the Chief Justice and 4 other black-robed justices of the United States Supreme Court, when Johnson sang the international communist song of hate, which had been adopted by the beatniks, the demonstrators, the rioters, the rebels. We shall overcome. Yes, Congress then and there should have adopted a resolution of impeachment.
A farm near Mayville, Wisconsin, a state that gave George Wallace 34% of its votes in the 1964 primary.
We like to feel that the liberals are the extremists as far as being on the left side. because they want total government control. And anarchy is the extreme on the right side, where they want no government. And we're right in the middle, where we want government, good, strong, limited government. So really a conservative follows the middle of the road. I don't know if I'm very good at convincing anyone why they should vote for Wallace. If anyone is really interested, and I'm pretty sure that most American people are interested in preserving this country of ours, then they would certainly vote for Mr. Wallace rather than voting for some other liberal candidate, which either the Democrats or the Republicans are going to offer, a liberal candidate who's going to give away our money and give away our government and give away everything else because they're all good guys. And of course, Mr. Wallace is one of the bad guys. You know, he wants to support or preserve this country, which no good high official really wants to do. They want to be popular in the world.
Well, I think that the Negro, no doubt about it, has got out of hand. And I think Wallace will enforce law and order. And this is one thing that the people are concerned about. Now, there's no doubt about it that they have burnt down Detroit. They've burnt down the east side over here. And anybody that would say that this is not a problem would be naive. Well, I think the biggest difference that I would be concerned with and I would hope to see is the enforcement of law and order, turning the power of enforcement back over to the individual states. Because it's become a time now in all these cities that it's dangerous for people even to leave the doors unlocked. You have to lock your doors.